now more than ever, I would say that investors must be very careful in keeping a well-diversified and balanced portfolio.
Fabio, how do you perceive the outcome of the recent election in economic context?
Well, it's true, Kais, that we've been through hectic times. So if we consider since June, we have had the unexpected result of the Brexit referendum, followed now by the as unexpected election of Mr. Trump as the 45th President of the United States. Further ahead, in 10 days, we have the re-vote for the presidential election in Austria, and also on the same day, we have the constitutional referendum in Italy. And then further ahead, on the new year, we will have the Dutch election, followed by the French election, and in October by the German election. All these results or outcomes may raise more than an eyebrow. And this is without even considering what has just happened in Bulgaria, in Moldova, and what is happening also in Poland, Hungary, Turkey, and further ahead in the Philippines. What all these political events tell us is that there is a desperate need for a change. People do not take any more from traditional political parties. Why is that? In my opinion, it's also a result from globalization that is now seen as the mother of all evil. The globalization has meant that entire sectors had to restructure, and also the fast speed of technological change, together with the dynamics of an aging population, has meant that there are huge layoffs and that these are difficult to people to find a job again. Therefore, the solution is perceived by the general public into a slide back into protectionism.
How are central banks' actions changing to adapt to the current situation?
Well, central bank action has been very proactive since 2008. In order to react to what was the subprime crisis, they've been flooding the market with liquidity in order to keep the economy afloat. Now, the problem is that there is a huge amount of uncertainty, and therefore this flood of liquidity doesn't drip down to the real economy, but it's used to restructure balance sheet at both household and company level. Now, this is why the monetary thesis doesn't work anymore as textbook predicts, because for Keynes and his multiplicator to work, you also need some speed of circulation of money, which is not happening. And this is why more and more economists are prone to abandon the monetary stimulus and to switch into fiscal stimulus. Now, fiscal stimulus is strongly opposed by some countries, and mainly by Germany, who still has major memories of the Republic of Weimar of the hyperinflation. But nevertheless, for inflation to happen, you need two conditions. One is a sizable increase in the monetary mass, and we do have that, but we do not have the second condition, which is the velocity of circulation of money. On the other hand, if we go through fiscal stimulus, we are going to enlarge the job creation, and therefore to enlarge also the basis of taxpayers and also the purchase power. Therefore, is a self-paying process, mainly in this peculiar environment where we have zero or negative yields. It is enough for infrastructure work to yield just slightly positive to create, it is true, at the beginning a wider deficit in the budget, but this will not cripple future taxpayers. Therefore, if you ask what is the solution for me, it's hard to say, because I always think that a good balance between the two solutions may be the right go ahead.
So what can the investor do?
This is the usual $1 million question, guys, because mainly in period of high uncertainty, markets do not like what is happening. Therefore, now more than ever, I would say that investors must be very careful in keeping a well-diversified and balanced portfolio. Now, I believe that volatility is set to increase dramatically, so one should take some hedges towards that. But I also believe that in different macro regions, there will be different approaches and investment solutions. Therefore, it is still too early to say what will happen when Mr. Trump will enter the White House with his team. However, a few of his war horses are set to be possible. The major argument he had was fiscal stimulus. So fiscal stimulus, in my opinion, will happen, and this reflects in an increase in commodity prices that are related to construction spending. And also what we may expect is that interest rate will head north in the United States. Also, other war horses were the at least partial dismantling of the Obamacare, and healthcare will take direction north as well. And also a more lenient look towards the financial sector. Therefore, any security linked to banks or finance is going to improve. So what tells us? This tells us that in the US, I would say that selected equity exposure may be a winning move. In Europe, on the other hand, we know that Germany is strongly opposed to fiscal stimulus. Therefore, quantitative easing will continue, and this will benefit also the United States, which is a paradox, but this will help to cap interest rate to a certain level. And in Europe, I still feel that exposure to credit and fixed income provides a much better risk-reward solution for the investors.
Now, the UK is an individual case. What can you tell us about the current situation in Great Britain?
Right, you are very, very right to ask these questions, because 6 months after, or almost 6 months after we had the Brexit, we are faced to intended and unintended consequences. Now, whilst the official data still show a very rosy picture, the reality in the medium to long term is very different. Suffice it to say that the UK is an economy that is completely dependent from the tertiary sectors, and most of the intertrade happens within Europe. Therefore, the slump in the currency, in the pound, has meant that there is a huge imported inflation that is damaging the UK consumer. And should additional tax burdens be raised against the UK from Europe, this would have a disastrous effect. Also, what we've seen since the 80s, the city has been the major income provider for the nation. And if Article 50 is triggered in a nasty way, that may mean that the mutual recognition of financial licenses will be lost. And therefore, all these high flyers of the city will have no solution but to try and find refuge in a different European harbor. So Prime Minister Theresa May knows that very well, and she's been very proactive in trying to tighten links within the Commonwealth and across the pond. Nevertheless, all these measures may not suffice to grant the same level of lifestyle the UK has been used to. Therefore, in general, I would be short on any or most UK securities.
Well, thank you, Fabio, for joining us in our studio. As always, it's a pleasure.
Guys, it was my pleasure. And since today is Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to all our US viewers.
And thank you at home for watching. Don't forget you can catch previous interviews with me and Fabio by clicking on our channel.